no reason to suspect the perimeter doesn't extend subterraneously.
Jimmy would be fresh off the boat at TV Sins. This slow-motion undusting scene is so very cool, but again brings up so many questions. And since the Sins channels have already had a few swings at this, let's just focus instead on the story of 44-year-old Ronald J. Tesh of Republic, Missouri. On the day of the snap, Ronald was walking his farm with his wife when he disintegrated right in front of her eyes. A year later, the still grieving widow had to sell the land to Amazon for a distribution center and take a job there as a line supervisor. 4 years after that, on the day of the reverse snap, she was doing her daily checks just as her late husband reappeared, standing in the midst of the mechanical jungle. His confused look didn't last long, as his upper torso was split by the assembly belt now occupying that space, and his wife watched his now bisected, lifeless corpse slowly proceed through the now gruesome assembly line. So, great job, Avengers!
Oh boy, it's gonna be one of those videos, isn't it? So, the Birdman has already explained this to you, but I'll rehash it really quick. The Hulk's wish when he reversed the snap was to bring everyone back safely. Think about it, if he had just brought everyone back in the exact same places as before, everybody would literally be floating in space, because the planet would be in a different place in its orbit of the sun.
This subtitle implies that Monica Rambeau is, in fact, Maria Rambeau's daughter, who is a character from Captain Marvel. But it's hard to make out what the off-screen voice is saying, and if you don't have the subtitles on, you're more likely to miss that Captain Marvel is the one that's talking. If the reveal is supposed to be a surprise down the road, then a sin for secret spoiling subtitles. And if this is supposed to be pertinent information, then a sin for needing the subtitles on.
How the fuck is this information supposed to be something that we wouldn't know on our own already? I mean, the last name Rambeau is not that common. And this is also the MCU we're talking about. So, you really should have been able to figure out the relationship here on your own.
Wait, what? This is a Marvel property I'm watching?
Discount Jeremy continues to think logos are a bad thing cliché.
It's bad enough I have to remember what SHIELD means, which, for the record, I do not. Now you're throwing sword at me? Too many acronyms, Marvel.
Alright, so here's the thing. You don't have to understand exactly what the acronyms stand for, because the show visually tells you what the agencies do. In other words, you remember what SWORD does because they show you that information, and therefore you don't actually need to remember what the acronym stands for in and of itself.
Sentient Weapon Observation Response Division may be the dumbest acronym ever. A full division dedicated to the response to observing sentient weapons. How many sentient weapons are we dealing with here?
Well, seeing as the Avengers movies have opened the world up to space, just in general, and really the entire universe, then I'd say at least several trillion. I mean, the point of SWORD is that they're preparing for if they ever need to face off against hostile sentient weapons. So, yeah, several trillion.
Getting stuck with the nickname Photon.
Holy shit. Okay, so I don't know if Discount Jeremy is actually aware of the significance of the name Photon and is just acting like he doesn't to force this sin, or if he really just is this dumb, but the name Photon is a reference to the comic book character Photon, and this could potentially actually factor into the plot somehow in later seasons.
The FBI is in a tizzy over a missing persons case up in Jersey.
Missing persons?
I know, but they've requested use of one of our imaging drones.
But wouldn't a request like that require more information? SWORD is an organization that has to deal with situations on a galactic level.
Are you not aware that SWORD probably does have more knowledge than that, but he just isn't telling her?
James E. Woo, FBI.
Did you see that? He did the card trick Ant-Man showed him. Man, I can't keep taking sins off for these Marvel winks, so here's a sin for show taking 3 full episodes to Randall Park and Kat Dennings, I guess?
A whole bunch of bullshit.
Pardon me, Sheriff. Would you mind repeating your claim about Westview to my colleague here?
No such place.
Many mysteries from the previous 3 episodes get solved over the next half hour. Still, one puzzle not pieced together is how the local law enforcement would be under Wanda's spell, but Wu and Rambeau aren't. They're standing in front of the same sign the police officers are.
So, I'm not saying that this is the definite answer, but it's possible that Wanda's control outside of Westview is not as controlled as it is inside the town, and therefore the cops are under her spell while the agents are not. I mean, it is called chaos magic after all.
How has no one else driven into Westview before now? Maybe the town isn't on a major road, but it's still on a road that could be a shortcut for someone looking to shave off a few minutes of their commute. Did all those people get a makeover and a new identity?
Holy shit, just pay attention to the show. We've seen that the energy field around the town makes it difficult for people to enter because it actually acts as a physical impediment, so presumably anybody who wanted to cut through would have either been discouraged or maybe in a small amount of cases, yes, they would have been adopted into the show.
Why haven't you gone inside to investigate?
Because it doesn't want me to.
Oh.
Okay, this sin is bullshit. The show just gave you an answer to your previous sin, but you give a sin for the explanation when you were literally just asking for one a second ago.
Oh, how many MCU movies do we have to remember to keep the names and connections of the supporting characters straight? At least the Avengers movies stuck mainly with the big guns. If you immediately recall who Darcy Lewis or Jimmy Woo is, I salute you, but I shouldn't need a cheat sheet to understand your show.
Alright, two things here. First, you do not need to remember who these characters are to understand the show, because there is context around these characters, and therefore you can see that Darcy is a scientist and Wu is an FBI agent. The context makes your point moot. Second, a lot of the people watching this show are more hardcore fans who can remember these people, but if you're not, that's fine. But if you care enough about the show, then you can literally just take 5 seconds out of your day to look all this shit up. And if you're not invested enough to do this, then you don't have the right to complain about it.
SWARD Response Base? Isn't response already in the acronym? Why not just call it the SWARD Divisional Base for Observation and Response?
Because SWORD Response Base is an easy and simple name?
Also, drones.
Why the fuck are drones a sin?
So you're saying the universe created a sitcom starring two Avengers?
Show includes confused fan ramblings frustrated at not being able to binge the whole season of WandaVision.
And yet more bullshit.
Wanda, can you read me? Over.
This kind of works.
And why is that a sin? 'Cause an idea worked? I mean, in a world that has a real-life sitcom starring two superheroes, you're questioning how this method of communication would work?
But where's Rambo?
Not answering this question was some variation of probably in a headband off brutally killing some people in a jungle somewhere in the name of justice.
Discount Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the episode cliche.
And I want you to leave.
Once again, I have to ask how Wanda's powers work. At times, she can make something appear with the snap of her fingers. So why couldn't she simply make Monica disappear? Now Wanda has more unnecessary cleanup. Just snap your fingers.
Again, if you care enough to sin this, then you should also be able to look it up. Long story short, it's chaos magic.